All right, today we're jumping into an analysis of a really significant and, let's be honest, often debated religious document, the family, a proclamation to the world. We're going to walk through how this particular analysis breaks down the document's main arguments and its big claims.
So this document came out back in 1995, and right off the bat, the analysis we're looking at says it wasn't trying to be trendy or keep up with the times. No, it was actually designed as a direct response to modern trends, really aiming to plant a flag and reaffirm what it calls eternal first principles about the family.
And that really gets us to the heart of the matter, the big question this analysis is asking. It's not about whether the proclamation is popular, or even if it's considered progressive. The question is it accurate when measured against what the source calls eternal reality?
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to follow the source's logic through 5 main sections. We'll start with how it sees the modern world, then get into the proclamation's core ideas, check out a key metaphor they use, walk through a historical timeline, and finally get to the analysis's ultimate verdict.
First up, the analysis sets the stage by talking about the problem it believes the proclamation was created to solve, and it describes that problem as a world that's in a state of, well, deep confusion about what family even is.
And this is where you can really see the two worldviews clash, right? The analysis lays it out side by side. On one hand, you have the modern view where things like marriage and gender are seen as flexible, as social constructs we can change. But on the other hand, you have the proclamation's view, which says, no, these things are fixed, they're divinely ordained, and they are eternal.
So, if that's the confusion, what's the proclamation's answer? Well, the analysis presents it as this unchanging standard. Let's take a look at the core principles it lays out.
And this is so important to understand from the analysis's point of view. These aren't just cultural preferences or good suggestions. They're presented as non-negotiable revealed truths. The argument is that these principles are the very bedrock of human happiness and a stable society, and that they come straight from a divine plan.
Now, to really get a handle on where the document's authority comes from, the analysis uses a powerful, classic religious metaphor.
You've probably heard this one before, but it's perfect for understanding the core argument. You have the creator, who is the potter, shaping and defining the creation. That's us, humanity, the clay. According to this analysis, the root of all this modern confusion is when the clay starts to judge the potter. It's when humanity tries to redefine a divine design that it had no hand in creating in the first place.
And the source material really drives this home with a quote from Isaiah. It powerfully frames the argument that redefining these foundational principles isn't just a small change. It's a complete inversion of the proper order of things. It's like the sculpture looking at the sculptor and saying, "You didn't make me."
Okay, so this isn't just an abstract philosophical argument. The analysis actually lays out a historical timeline, arguing that this breakdown of the traditional family didn't just happen overnight. It was a gradual process, something that unfolded over more than 100 years. So check this out. The analysis breaks it down into 4 stages. It says it all started with an idea, removing God as the ultimate source of morality. Then, that idea started to change how people behaved, prioritizing personal fulfillment over duty. Next, the laws and our institutions began to change to match those new values. And now, in our time, the source claims that reality itself has become negotiable, with personal identity taking priority over biological nature.
So after all that, the philosophical argument, the historical breakdown, we finally get to the bottom line. The analysis gives its direct answer to that question we started with. How accurate is this thing really?
And the author? Well, they don't mince words. On a 100-point scale, they give the proclamation an accuracy rating of 98 to 100.
So you're probably thinking, a near-perfect score? Why? Well, according to the source, it's because the document gets 3 big things right. It correctly identifies its source of authority as divine, it lays out what it calls the essential principles of family, and it accurately diagnoses the problem as society trying to redefine divine patterns. And that little 2% gap, the analysis says that's not a mistake in the ideas themselves. It's just the best we can do with human words to describe something eternal.
And this really brings us to the core thesis of the whole analysis. It flips a common idea on its head. The argument here is that the family is not some social construct that grew out of society. No, it's the other way around. Society evolved around the pre-existing fundamental unit of the family. From this perspective, weakening the family isn't a sign of progress. It's a direct cause of societal instability.
And so the whole thing wraps up by leaving us with this one final and pretty provocative question. It asks us to think about the ultimate consequences in a culture where individual feelings are often treated as the highest form of truth. What happens when those feelings become the final authority for everyone?